Okay, now we're really good.
No, it's a clock behind us, yeah.
Yeah.
You want the window open?
I think it's okay.
No, it's a sound.
I think. Oh no, that's fine.
Okay,
That's fine. Yeah, I think we can do with a little bit of car driving by noise. I think.
I'm sure someone will be testing their Vespa at some point just to fuck with us. Yeah. Around here,
this is that weird time of day. Here though, there's some sort of weird time in the early to mid afternoon.
No, they just wait for us.
No. In Utrecht though, we're like where everyone's asleep or something.
Or not.
You go down the city and there's nobody
outside.
Yeah. It's very strange.
That's actually 8 in the morning.
Is it?
It was a weird thing. Literally that, when I started the protocol and woke up at 4, like out of bed, right? 4:30, I'm out in the streets riding my bicycle to the gym.
Yeah.
Because, I literally don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And I saw more people at 4:30 in the morning in the streets of Utrecht than I did at 8 on the way back.
I remember that.
It was the funniest thing.
Because I remember I was here one time and you had got up and cycled. It was probably 25 minutes, like all the way to M Lab, trained at the 4 in the morning. Come back and I wake up and you're coming in the house. I was like, where the fuck? What happened?
At that stage, I would wake up like 5-6 hours. It was very interesting because it was the early stages of the protocol where for like a second, not that I was worried, but at the same time, it's like, I don't understand. I'm sleeping like 5 hours, 5.5. I wake up extremely rested with so much energy right off the bat. I'm not tired in the afternoon, but I'm like, but that's not sustainable, is it? 2 weeks like that. And I was like, because I feel high all day, like I'm having like tons of espresso, which I even wasn't. But I was like, I don't understand. Then it took me a while to realize that I was sleeping so badly before that those 6 hours of quality sleep were actually more than the 8 hours of shitty sleep I was getting before. The quality, it's like nutrients, right? Mm-hmm. You can eat less food and have more nutrients in your body from it since you have better digestion. So it was the same thing with sleep. I was having less quantity but better quality, therefore more results out of my sleep.
Yeah, out of less sleep, really.
Out of less sleep. I was 2 hours less.
And then as you built more sleep upon
then
that,
I went back to it. But I was like, well, of course that makes sense. But that's when I also...
It's also funny though, because here's what I noticed is same type of situation is when my sleep started improving, I would need less of it. I would wake up almost inconveniently early.
Yeah.
Sometimes fuck.
At 4 in the morning.
Well, then you try to go back to sleep only because you're bored.
Because there's nothing else to do. And by the way, there's also that stuff about like, you're supposed to get 8. Mm-hmm. So you're like, sometimes I understand people with the protein, but I'm supposed to get 300. I was like, I know, you're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep. But that's what we're going to talk about. Here's the problem with the number 8 hours. It's like 8 hours of any sleep?
Yeah.
Or is it 8 hours of good sleep? What if you're not capable of handling 8 hours of good sleep because you never had that much? You can't expect your body to go 8 hours of shitty sleep to 8 hours of good sleep. That's not how it works.
See, I've made this shift like yours where I went from sleeping 8 to 10 hours every night and then taking naps in the afternoon. Got my sleep apnea fixed and I'm down to like 4 or 5 hours at a time and then fighting, that gets better. Then with the nutrition protocol, same thing. I'm back to waking up, and this is even with my machine, I'm waking up at 3:30 in the morning, something like that, and just awake. But then as my sleep quality, I got better sleep quality, so I'm sleeping less. Then I'm getting more sleep at that higher quality.
Yeah.
And then my sleep quality at some point improves again I make another change that works, and you crank it back up. You're getting up at 4 a.m., but you feel pretty fucking good.
You feel better than you did before, so that's why it's super confusing.
I just don't. I've actually learned to where if I do wake up, and I don't even know what's right, so don't take this as advice. But if I get up, it's between 3:30 and 4. Any later than 4, I have to decide to start my day or to really just stay in bed and go to sleep.
I start my day.
But at 3:30 in the morning, 3:30, 4, something like that, I will just like wake up and give myself 30 minutes of something because I can't. It'll be maddening for me to lay there to pretend to be tired.
Like literally, if I do that, I start to have weird dreams. I'm like, I'm up.
Yeah.
Like my brain is telling me, dude, one way or another, you're getting up. So now literally, when I go like this in the morning, I know it's past 6 because Carla is not next to me. I'm like, I'm up.
Yeah. And when I say I give myself 30 minutes, I give myself 30 minutes of awake.
Okay.
Like I will get up and leave the bed.
Oh yeah,
because
and see if you're tired or not.
Well, only because I know that's too early for me that I will go back to sleep. But if I lay in bed, I might lose an hour to 90 minutes of just being like, why can't I sleep?
So
this way I get up,
start my day.
do something, take care of something.
No, I look at it as training. Like you increase intensity, volume will go down.
Yeah.
At first anyway.
Yeah.
Until
you've adapted.
Yeah, you can't just keep the same volume and raise the intensity. It will mess you up. So I accept that. I was like, all right, I'm raising the intensity of what I'm doing. And yes, the intensity of sleep.
Yeah.
How hard I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I know volume will go down. And I know things change. Like sometimes it'll be longer, lesser quality. Sometimes, but when I know that when the quality goes up, I'll sleep less.
Yeah. How do we build a system for quality like that in everything and training and all that stuff? Like, because we've talked about if we try to hit these numbers, like 8 hours.
Yep.
We can do a lot of shit to try to get 8 hours, right? You can take pills, you can drink, you can smoke yourself to sleep.
Bed, or
you can
just
lay
stay
in bed with your eyes closed for 8 hours.
But even if you sleep 8 hours, are you still? And there's the entire problem. That's the problem with the systems we have in place, and so that's what we're gonna talk about. This is most likely the most important. I don't want to say, okay, so at least for now, the most important system we're going to talk about. Like, it's not even a system, but this will be the most important principle, I believe, that we can share with you all. This is the stuff that took me, all the work that I've been doing lately that converged into one spot. And we're going to call it the novelty search, but actually, it's not just that. It's a lot of stuff that just got combined into one way, which is really the correct way to look at things. So it's Socrates who said, I cannot teach anyone, I can only make them think. I will phrase it a little bit differently if I can. I'll at least for me to say, it will be, I cannot teach anybody anything, but I can only make them see. What I want people to do is to be able to see the world correctly. The way you look at the world, perception creates reality. The way you look at the world, and for example, objective-based search we're going to talk about, will shape the way you go at your life. And that is one of the main issues that you see where people have that linear progression in life where they think like, as long as I take one step closer to my goal, I'm on the right path.
We had talked about that just a few minutes ago, actually, and I want to have you elaborate on that a little bit because we've mentioned this in past podcasts also. But how I had mentioned something in regards to, as we're trying to communicate some of these things, like, we communicated this way and it clicked better with, people understood it. And I thought, well, maybe we were communicating that incompletely before. And you made a good point where you said, no, because they weren't there.
Yep.
We're communicating from a point where if you are wanting to live and see only with objectives and only seeking the results and the end point, then frankly, none of the things that you say are going to click to them.
They won't.
Or even if they like them, they ain't gonna fucking work.
No, because I'm gonna say that the way the world works, not correct or incorrect. This is not a good versus bad conversation.
Yeah.
The world works a certain way. We are looking at it incorrectly. So there's many examples. Economics is one way to look at it. We can look at evolution. We can look at computer science. So we basically I want to go at computer science because that's the AI and novelty search, but we can use the other one at least to explain the problem with objectives. I think we should start with this.
Yes.
What is the problem? What's an objective and what is the problem with it?
Okay.
So you have three different things. You have a purpose, which is an overall goal that is not targeted toward anything. I want to be strong. All right, so that's a purpose. I need to be stronger. Fine, that's an overall. It's not really an objective because it's so vague you can't get there. An objective is a target. I need to squat 400.
Yeah.
Right, that's an objective. That's very narrow and everything. A constraint is a measure. Right, so squatting 400 is a target. So that's the example that we use. If I get stronger, eventually I squat 400. Yeah. Squatting 400 is a measure. You go like, yeah, but I really want to be strong. So therefore squatting 400 means I'm strong. So then you're going to game the system and just do squatting with technique, maybe with the suit on or whatever, until you squat 400. So you can say, now I'm strong.
Yeah, and you may have found a way to squat 400 while still being as weak as you possibly can be.
So maybe you get the skill, right? So maybe you improve on your skill so much, but really the neural output and the capacity, the muscle have not grown that much. But in your mind, you got strong. So that's the problem.
And it does also, like we've talked about before.
Because it doesn't translate to anything else.
When we talked about before and looking for black swan events too, is by doing that is that you narrowed everything.
Right.
So all of the things that getting stronger is, you've now boiled it down to this one little thing that now you're going to negate. You may not, there's no guarantees, but you very likely will negate a lot of the things or avoid a lot of the things
you will because you game the system. And the problem with this is on the way there, you went like, I just need a step closer. So I need 375, then 380, then 385 and everything. Again, negating everything else but what gets you 5 more pounds.
Yeah.
That's a very short-term mentality, and people say it works. No, it doesn't. This is the Black Swan book from economics, right, that Nassim Taleb wrote about. Actually, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. We've seen that all the time. It doesn't work. And this is what the Goodhart's law of economics is when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. The second you think getting to squat 100 makes you strong, no, you game the system. You change things. You take them from where it was a measure, you made it into a target.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of having squat as a measure, which is a constraint, which means I have to make sure my squat goes up as a proof that I'm getting stronger overall, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But targeting the squat to game the system in order to prove that you're strong. Now, it's not about you getting strong. It's about proving to others.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
And we had talked a little bit about so because that focus is very narrow, you're missing a lot of things. It's kind of a can't see the forest through the trees type situation.
Which is everything. Because that's the point, is you don't know what the first step is.
Let's go into what you mean by novelty search first before I get into a couple of examples.
No, I want to explain what objectives are.
Okay, finish.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, for example, the biggest issue with what is true is the tree hiding the forest. Like, there's a way to your 400-pound squat, right? What's the first step? You think your first step is whatever gets you closer. But that's a linear way of thinking. You think this only way up the mountain is a straight line, but that's not true. Right? You're at the bottom of a mountain. How many ways in front of you can lead you up the mountain? You don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's in the book that we'll talk about. Like the guy was like, you need to cross a lake, and then there's stepping stones to get across the lake, but they're under the water and you don't see them. So right. The idea that just going that way, but what if the stepping stones are completely to the side of it? What if the first two go right and not straight? Then you're like, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
Because an objective search where it's whatever gets you closer is good means whatever doesn't get you closer is bad. So imagine if you're in a maze, because that has been tested in the world of computer science, where they build algorithm, objective search algorithm. When they have a robot getting through a maze.
The objective is you are here, you must end up
leaving the maze, and whatever gets you closer is good. So what you saw is robots literally on average 37 times out of 40 getting stuck in a corner in one of those things and never being able to leave. Why? Because they're trying to get closer and closer. So the only way out is if you're lucky enough to get the stuff, and that's the 3 out of 40. It's not exactly luck, but it just happens to be the right path that they found almost like,
you can kind of take just the right direction.
And so that has been tried, for example, trying to mimic human walking. That's been done on robots, and they failed miserably. There's only one way that worked to actually create that, and it was not objective based, and we'll talk about it. But first, why objectives are bad, right? So you see that everybody thinks the world is linear. That's really what it comes down to. We told, for example, evolution is random mutation. But that's not true. So nothing in life is random in that sense. Why do we know that? Because there's something called a grand regularity, which is something that has been talked about, the Fibonacci sequence, like we're talking all the way up to Leonardo da Vinci and even way before. There are certain statistical laws when it concerns numbers that are there. So if you do random and you average random, you always end up with a straight line because it's an average, right? So you go like, that's how the world works. You know, averages, everything evens out, you have a straight line. Except if you take anything in nature, the average actually end up with what is called an S-curve. It's called a log normal distribution. It's a probabilistic curve. It's called a sigmoidal curve. It's a probabilistic one, which means things start slow, speed up, and stall.
So relatively flat. If you look at the graph,
then it goes
relatively
straight
flat,
up,
very steep,
and kind of flat after. It's an S-curve.
So this time in which on that graph where it's very steep, that is actually still a very short.
Right. So in economics, it's called a Pareto distribution.
Okay.
So 80% of the result come from 20% of the work inputs, or whatever. So that 80-20, roughly, right, obviously, but that S-curve you see on everything. Language uses what are the letters that are, so you have certain letters that are used for most of it, and so 80% of language is done with 20% of the letters, like of words.
Yeah.
All right. Words, short versus long versus medium. 80% of language is medium stuff. 80% of your DNA strands are of a medium length versus long and short.
Yeah.
Everything in life obeys the 80-20 rule. It's not exactly 80-20, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
They follow the S-curve. Everything. Like there's nothing in this world that you can find that does not obey an S-curve. Nothing is linear outside of the stuff we create.
Yeah.
Like, but anything natural obeys the S-curve. And what does that mean? That's the importance of the software. If he obeys the S-curve, that means it's probabilistic. Right, but it's like we live in a computer, right, that has a software based on a probabilistic law. And we do actually, because I believe we're trying to mimic what we see.
Yeah.
And so we live in a computer, right, in a computer simulation, whose software obeys specific mathematical laws. And that's what we saw in quantum mechanics, the probability is being calculated. That's the wave, the wave collapse by Schrödinger was the most successful theory of all times. We are living in a computer which software obeys specific probabilistic laws. And everything we do does that. So it seems like there's a law there of the universe that is probabilistic, and everything from there obeys the same. That goes from quantum mechanics all the way to the macro level, all the way to cosmology. It's always the same.
Yeah.
So dark energy is 75% of the stuff. And you know what I mean? Like you obey, it's an S-curve every single time. Your life is an S-curve. You have stuff where not much happen, and then everything fucking happen at once, and then everything stops, and you go, why couldn't I get that like 2 weeks ago? Because that's the way.
Well, I think that's why this sits so well among a lot of the other things that you talk about you've been working on, because of the reason that it is applicable in 1,000 different scenarios.
All of them. That's
meaning,
the thing. All of them.
If that principle works in fucking physics, but does not work in any other space,
then it's not
that's not going to be of much use to you to apply to the thing.
Because that means it's not true.
Yeah.
If you see something that happens in biology and not in physics, you have a problem.
Yeah.
That means there's something you don't understand well enough.
And that's what's interesting. So you're looking for very much like universal truths, if you will.
And it is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
Like that's what the world is saying. Like again, this is not. By the way, this isn't me saying it. Go read Paul Davis, The Demon in the Machine. Go read Darwin Does Physics. Go read, for example, Novelty Search. You're going to find the same truth. Google grand regularity. Go read Leonardo da Vinci, Fibonacci sequence. Do you know that in the constants of the universe, the number 1 is used 30% of the time, while the number 9 is used less than 5% of the time? It's an S-curve, just like letters, right? So you have letters, A is used, E, but then I is less, but certain constants even less, right? All languages end up with the same thing. Certain letters are used more than others, but that follows a probabilistic law of it, just like the numbers are being used in a constant of the universe. What about the golden number?
Yeah.
I mean like the stuff that goes like this, right? Like you run the golden number, like that's Leonardo da Vinci, and you end up with that shape like this, like that
flowers
shell.
and plant lives and
right,
shells
and tornadoes and galaxies, and it's all end up. Not to say we live in a computer simulation, but the universe is a quantum computer. We just don't understand how the shit works. But so there is a software, and it runs on a probabilistic law. So the idea that, by definition, an objective search cannot be true. That idea that you can have a linear progression where one step closer, it does not work. That shows you everywhere in economics. My point is that you don't know where the first step to where you want to go is.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate, kind of.
Yes, please.
As well as I can for a guy that doesn't disagree with you all that often. But
I just bury you every time.
I know, that's the problem.
I kind of enjoy it.
Well,
too.
I've also seen it enough at seminars where I'm like, oh, Jesus, here we go. Tyler, I'm gonna get licked here. But
let me try anyway.
But so tell me though, you talk about this, how obviously things don't operate in a linear way necessarily. So I can't just set an objective here and get a little bit better and a little bit better to this point. What does happen in between here? You've talked about black swan, but my question is, if I'm just leaning forward constantly, won't I get there?
No, you will not.
But what does happen that will stop? Because we've always talked about these black swans where I may end up somewhere else, but if I just keep leaning forward.
But that's the problem, is what leaning
you always
forward
end up
means.
Changing your objectives?
No, that's the problem, is what leaning forward means. Means you will have to change what leaning forward means as you go. Yeah. And that's the biggest problem. So if you set an objective and you go, I'm going to try to get stronger. Right. So what you're saying is by getting closer, it really becomes the focus on one objective. That's a convergent mindset, which means you're going to remove whatever doesn't get you stronger in order to get one step closer. So you take stuff away as you go. It's like a survival of the fittest, but actually, then I'll come back to that, because actually that's not true. Life does not thrive through survival of the fittest. On the contrary, if that was the case, we'd still be amoebas. The way to solve problems is to create more complexity, right? If you look at, it's like an exponential, it's like a computer. What is the difference between the first iPhone to today's iPhone, for example? Is the processor I think the processor of today's iPhone is stronger than the one that sent men to the moon, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think the one on my kid's iPhone 4 was probably stronger,
Than the one that sent people to. So what is the difference? The capacity of the computer to process information. That's really what power is, right? Capacity to process information, right? That relates to the complexity of the system. As a system becomes bigger, it has more ways of dealing with information, improvement of complexity improve the capacity to process information, which is power. Right. So complexity in that sense, like more and more, it's basically a computer that has more gigs of memory, more processing power, is just more complexity. Right. That's a divergent mindset. You need more, not less. When you have a convergent mindset, which is objective-based, you go towards simplicity. Well, that doesn't work, this doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what you do is every time you go, anything that is not in a straight line is bad. The problem with that is you don't know if the way there is on that straight line, because nothing follows a straight path. So what happens, let's say someone wants to get stronger. Because the point is, if I squat, so now that you turn it into an objective, it's a target, it's not a measure anymore. So the point is, I squat 400, I'm strong. All right, so now you're gonna game the system, because that's how everything works, right? You made a prediction, you have to go after it. So how do you game the system? You get stuck at 315. Right, so let me get bigger. Right? So I have a belt, easier way. Sorry about that. I just burst into the mic. I'm still sick, so my nose is, as you can hear from my voice.
The rudest thing we've ever heard on this podcast.
Please take it off. Sure. I'm still sick, so that's why my voice is weird. So I'm gonna wear a squat suit because now I just gained 60 pounds. But you're not stronger. I disagree. I just gained 60 pounds on my squat. I am stronger. Because that's the objective just told you that reaching 400 pound squat means you're strong. So you're like, okay, so now you're at 375.
And there's such a lack of complexity in it only being that one.
Because that's your mindset, is less complexity. So now you're like, look, I don't care. The point is 400 pound squat, I'm strong. So stop fucking with where I reach 400, I'm strong. How simple is that? But exactly. It is simple because it is a convergent mindset that leads to simplicity. So then what happens next? I'm at 375, 380, because now you need to get stronger, but that's not the point. So how do I get to 385? What else can I'm going to put knee sleeves. Right, so now I'm one step closer. Now I'm 385.
And the issue is as you explain it that way, it sounds a lot like you've said before, like doing more of what got you a 400 pound squat is not going to get you 5.
No, but doing more of the gaming the system gets you closer.
Also it might get you 5, but then you definitely cannot scale that up to 6.
No, and plus, so all you're doing is you're piling stuff. So it's a deterministic view of the universe. It's a materialistic where all you do is piling little boxes. So you have a big box.
Whereas if I were to have looked at it the right way in the beginning and say, I just want to get stronger.
Right. So let's go to that. But first, let's finish. How do I get to 400? Because now I'm at 385, right? So now I put knee sleeves. I'm at 385, and then steroids come about. Then cocaine before I squat. And eventually I get to 400. So now I'm a addict wearing a squat suit with knee sleeve full of steroids. I squat 400.
180 kilos,
Right. Are you strong? Well, technically you reach your objective, and that's what happens to people. They reach the objective and they go, but nothing happened. Well, yeah, because now that you removed everything, you have not learned from it. Which was the point in the first place, was to learn from it, right?
Well, and it's like we've talked about, I don't want to use the term flexibility, but the term mobility, I guess, in your thinking with this is because of that, like you said, if you end up there, you end up at that point, all right, I got it. Got what I wanted. I got my 400 pound squat or whatever. However, I actually am not as strong as I probably was hoping I would have been by the time I got here.
No, because all you did is
All I
not
did was
getting
got
better
better
at
at
the
the one
squat.
thing,
You just
yeah.
got better at the squat.
Yeah.
So now that you got better at the squat as a lift, right? Not stronger, just got better at the squat. You look around and you go, but that's not what
Nothing
I
has
wanted.
changed, yeah.
Nothing has changed. Because you're right, nothing has changed, but that one thing, which is not what you set yourself to do in the first place. You had a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose was to get strong. The problem is your objective did not give you closer to the purpose.
And it's funny when I think about that, it just sounds like a lack. So that mindset, right? That just
Yeah.
It actually just sounds to me like a lack of like resourcefulness, in my opinion, because you're not. It's just all right. That's all I have to do. You set that target,
Exactly.
and you can reduce it down.
Right.
You can have a complete lack of self-awareness. There's no self-assessment.
Totally.
It's all just whatever the expression that I chose. That
Whatever
number,
gets me
that's what it's
closer.
gonna be.
Whatever gets me closer.
And I always say this about a lot of things, but it is now that you've explained it in this manner with the objectives versus what I see is this. Oh, how do I explain it?
Yeah, versus the constraint. Like that's you can see how destructive as a mindset this is.
Yeah.
But
See, I used to always say like these things work until they don't. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
linear print, of course it'll work. You know what? Coming off the gym, squat 5x5, let's roll. That will work. You will get better until you don't. And then what are you going to do? Because you can't.
Yeah, but so
And you didn't learn
for
anything
me,
that
no,
you
it
can
didn't
take with
because
you.
that was never the point.
Yeah, I mean work.
Yeah,
Let me
I know,
rephrase
right,
that.
exactly.
Yeah. It'll work as in you'll improve.
You will see short-term results, but short-term results in that sense is just what you're doing is a semantic battle to win a conversation.
Yes.
You know, people they go, you say that word, and suddenly they're better than me because they managed to get one word during a podcast and go, that's not the correct word, and I'm like, you're right. Now you're smarter than me.
Yeah.
You caught me in a podcast with
I
the wrong
said
word.
5,000 words.
Yeah, but you caught me with the wrong one, which now you're morally superior to me. Yeah, you win the argument. You're right. Right. So that's what they're doing with the squat. Is they find a way to isolate one thing and go like, that's it, I'm strong.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same. That's an objective based. But like for example, did catching me on that one word that I missed, did that make you smarter? No. Did I make you smarter than me? No either. But it's an objective based.
Did it make you dumber though? Because that's how you can even the thing.
Exactly, right.
If it makes you a little dumber every
But
time.
to them it did. To them it did.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is now I'm dumber than you. Fine. But in real life, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Because if we have another conversation, I'll still be smarter.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how it works. And that's the problem with objective based. And by the way, we are being taught that since we're 5 years old.
Absolutely.
So I don't put it on people. I put it on, this is where the problem is in what we do right now, is we are completely based on objectives. They tell you that the only way forward is to have objectives. But more and more we're starting to see that actually that is not how you get to stuff. Because again, you don't know where the first step to get to what you want is.
Yeah.
You don't. It's a future. You don't know where it is. It's not in a straight line because nothing is. It's probabilistic. It's not in a straight line. So how do you find where that first step is?
Yeah. That's
what we're going to talk about.
Let's roll into that because now if I have I don't want to do specifics in this one now.
Yep.
So let's just say I have something I want.
Yep,
Right?
right.
And what we just went over is the example of just that laser fucking narrow focus, right? Get it
Convergent
onto
mindset,
the
right.
one thing. So we're going to find one single measurable boom.
So divergent mindset seems to be the key, right? I need to increase the complexity of the system in order to be smarter, right? So what I need to learn is to learn better. How do I learn where the first stepping stone is? How do I do that? All right, so that's what we're going to talk about. In AI, they invented something that is called a novelty search, right? So they did it because the objective-based algorithms were failing so bad at the robots in the maze. So I'm like, all right. So they keep trying different stuff. Sorry, still sick. They kept trying different stuff until they realized that one actually had worked, and it's called a novelty search. So instead of having an objective base, which doesn't work, they're going to remove any objective out of the algorithm, which means there's a maze, and there's no objective, which means getting out of the maze was never told to the robot. That is, it was not given something to do, not even a purpose. What they did is they told the robot to do something new every single time. So, don't touch me. Just go Scala isn't here.
You're my chair, bro.
Just go Scala isn't here. I have people that can see it. So what they did was they gave a simple instruction to the robot, do something you haven't. So it's not random. It's novel. There's a difference. Random means you can do the same thing 5 times. go backwards or whatever. The only stuff that he told him to do was do something new every time. So it's not an objective, it's a constraint, right? Measure what you've done, do something different. That's a very important part, is understanding it is not random.
Yeah.
Right.
So when we talk about setting these constraints, you're just going to set up just a set of boundaries that are going to give you the things that you can put your resources in, and maybe limit off the
So
ones
for example,
but that is in the spirit of inclusiveness, not simplicity.
right, so to a Darwinian mindset, for example, you're like, well, how do I work my teres major? Well, I know teres major, a constraint is it's in IT, not ET. Right, there's your constraint. Go work in IT.
Yeah.
So, but after that,
And they may not all click. You may try 4 or 5 exercises and try an IT and not hit the teres major.
So I didn't tell you what to do. I just tell you how to do it. That's the constraint. I say within IT, go pull something.
Yeah.
Row pulls, lat pull downs, I don't care, because the point is you're gonna try all of them within those constraints, because this is where you're gonna find the first step toward finding your step. What is that first step? I don't know. But you don't know either. The only way to know is to go try shit. And what you've done has not worked, right? That's the problem with the objective-based search, is it telling you what you've done worked, you just need to do more of it. Right? What you've done is working because we're closer.
Yeah.
Just do more of it and you'll get closer and closer. That's the Lego thing, where you just put one Lego on top of the other and then eventually you have a big stuff. So naturally, an objective-based mechanism will lead you to believe that more is better, which we know never works. So the key is, what's the first step? I don't know. You don't know. It's in the future. The only thing you know is the past. We don't know the future. So the point is, within those constraints, go try. So does that mean I need to try everything? Yes, and that's the point of novelty search. What they realized with a robot is that once he had mapped out the entire, by doing something new every time, the entire maze, the only way to do something new was to get out of it. Because if he had done anything else, he would have done it already.
Yeah.
So it forced him to map.
To almost do every single way that didn't get him there.
But that's a mapping mechanism.
Yeah.
He mapped the maze, and then he knew that the only way to do something new was to keep out of the maze. And what was interesting is, out of the maze, he kept exploring.
Yeah.
Right, like human beings.
Yeah, what an interesting approach too. You know,
Right.
if you walk into a maze somewhere here, you know, a little fucking hedge maze or something, and your plan is not to try to get to the end as fast as you can, get lost. Your plan is, I'm going to step every fucking inch of this maze.
Until I know.
You will get out.
Yeah, but you'll know everything in the meantime.
You'll know everything.
But does that not sound like, okay, so objective-based means I get out of the maze. And
Which
then
means you'll be frustrated every...
No, but plus the robot will go like, now what?
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas a novelty search, you get out of the maze, you still have to do something new, so you keep exploring. Does that sound like human beings? We are novelty search people. That's how the shit works.
Well, you had mentioned yesterday about like how babies learn. Too.
Right. So
how babies learn to walk.
Right. So a maze is too easy of the stuff, because you can go, yeah, okay, fine. So we're going to give it something complicated. So they ask a robot to mimic human walking. We've been trying that for a long time. And they all fail so badly. They come up with some awkward, anyway, so far past what we're good at. We gave it to the novelty search. And guess what? It is the only robot that managed to actually walk like us. Because it turns out that walking like a human being is oscillation, right? The hips turn and everything. Yeah, exactly, all that stuff. You know how you oscillate? You have to kick your leg forward first. What happens when you kick your leg forward? You face plant. You eat shit, right? So the AI ate shit 6,000 times, but ate shit differently every time. Then he got back up, kicked the leg, and then before you know it, he started walking like a human being, because that was the only way to do something new in that sense. Who does that? Babies.
Yeah.
Babies will eat shit 6,000 times and go like, I'll try something new.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, I thought about this quite a bit after you mentioned it, not because of that mechanism, but because of why don't they just teach the robots to walk the same way that you teach a baby to walk? Because you don't fucking teach a baby to walk.
Exactly.
I didn't, my kid was 10
have?
months old. He wouldn't have known a fucking thing I told him. He just kind of played and did some shit.
And all there was is constraints. Don't go head first.
And yet
Which
eventually...
you learn how? By banging your head and go, okay, I'm not going to do that.
And then, but eventually, almost every single goddamn baby on this earth
to walk.
ends up in the same position with the same processes.
Whenever they fail 10 times, they add as a constraint that this way is not working. So that's what a constraint is. Like, for example, I want to learn to walk. Is bungee jumping the best way to do that? Is it going to work? No. So you do that 10 times, you realize, all right, it's not helping me learning to walk. So then you go, as a constraint, bungee jumping doesn't work. Right, so you remove that, and then you start to go into an hour.
You talk about the baby or us?
Yeah, I'm not doing the jumping either, but exactly. So it's not gonna get my bench press better, I don't think. Well, actually, you never know, because you might put my spine.
You might,
yeah. But anyway, but that's the point, right? So you try bungee jumping and realize it's not all right. So as a constraint, we means we're not gonna do that. So what people won't like about this is like, yeah, but look how many possibilities there are. Right, and that's when you start adding constraints, not objective, but constraint as to where is it that I'm not going to look.
Because you cannot just start throwing more variation on top of everything else either.
No, because then it's too many possibilities.
Yep, exactly.
Right, so that's the problem. The system will become so complex that is just too much for you. Yeah. So that's a butterfly effect. Every time you introduce a variable, you increase the complexity of the system. There's a moment where it's just too complex for you. Right, so we're gonna have enough constraints to keep you within a system that you can fully develop, right, within your own stuff. But that will be the key. The key will be to find the right constraints for you to search things to move forward.
Meaning, you can't narrow it so far that you don't get to see enough opportunities to make real jumps.
Because you don't know where they are.
Exactly, but you also cannot too generalize necessarily, so the constraints are there to make sure that you don't waste all your fucking time.
Exactly.
So that it doesn't take you 10 years to learn how to walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can do it a bit faster by having the right constraints. But at the same time, imagine if you try to get, if the objective, walking was an objective, the objective would be to go from here to the couch. And then you beat the shit of your kid until he does that. But then he'll never walk well after that. Like you'll introduce so many issues by doing that. Like he has to try to eat shit, same thing for running, same thing for all stuff. It requires you trying all possibilities and narrowing the field as you go. But obviously narrowing the field, because otherwise the possibilities are always endless. So then you would never learn anything. But so that's what constraints are about. It's just to guide you into a field where discovery has more chances of getting you the right stuff. So if I go back to my lake with a stepping stone, the idea would be I throw a stone in the water. I see ripples. So first of all, I'm going to throw a stone in the water because I know that if I throw it behind me on the ground, it's not going to do the ripples that I need to see to find the first stepping stone since I'm trying to cross the lake. That's a constraint. Don't throw the rock behind you. Right. You throw it in front of you, ripples, you don't see anything. But there's another constraint, it's not in front of you. All right. I'm going to throw the rock to the right. Do I see ripples heading a stepping stone? Yes or no? There's another constraint. Then I'm going to throw to the left. What are the chances of me hitting the stepping stone when I throw the rock? Extremely small. That would be an objective based. Chances are it's not going to work. But eventually, adding constraints, I'm going to start to see a ripple over there. Ooh, closer. Throw another rock until eventually I find that stepping stone. That stepping stone is a door. So now I walk into that door. Now back to it. Where's the next stepping stone? I don't know. That's why we're going to do the same shit again and again and again until we go across. I don't know how many stepping stones it takes to get me across the lake. I don't know where they are. That's just you know what? Welcome to life.
Yeah,
but here. Everybody that tells you differently is lying.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. So that's why craftsmen, right? Take 10 years or a lifetime to be good at something because they will try.
That's what I want you to rectify that too, right? Because on one side here, we're saying, God, you cannot just over specialize your focus necessarily.
Yep.
And then on the other side, you have such a great appreciation for mastery and craftsmanship.
Totally.
And that the spirit of mastery is not specialization with such a narrow focus.
Yeah.
Because you can't get there with that narrow focus.
It's not that, because the true soul of mastery is not
rooted in constant fucking failure, trial and error.
Because the key to mastery is it trying to understand the soul of what they're doing, not the outcome. The guy like Jiro, the best sushi maker in the world, I wonder if he's still alive because he must be 90 now. The point of him is not to serve the best sushi in the world. It's not that. He wants to understand sushi.
Yeah.
He wants to know he's constantly learning, constantly improving, because his life goal is sushi. It's not to serve you, the dude in front of you, the best sushi. In a way, it doesn't matter to him. That's not the point. The point is not you. The point is him. What he wants to do is become better at making sushi. Becoming better at making sushi means what? Being more complex into his approach to sushi. Being more complex means it's a divergent mindset, means experiencing more. Every single day he says he learns.
Try more, experiment more.
Because he learns every day. If he learns every day, that means he learns what? Not to give you better sushi. He learns the craft itself.
And learning every day doesn't mean that you're the product that you're putting out, whatever that is, right? Whether it's your training, whether it's, say you set a bad outcome, your weight on the bar, your food that you're cooking. Learning more does not mean that you are improving that output every day.
No.
Getting better and learning every day.
At learning.
Getting better at learning at that thing every day is important. But that doesn't mean that if you're a barista, your coffee today may not be as good as the coffee you made 2 weeks ago.
And that's not the point.
Because you tried it, now you don't like it, now you correct, and you keep going.
And that's not the point. The point is that you're better at learning today than you are tomorrow. That's craftsmanship. The key is to get better at learning.
Yeah.
That means that you have to be constantly trying to get better at learning, which means you have to be constantly trying stuff. Because that's how you learn. Objective-based is the opposite. Sorry.
Cough break.
Objective-based leads you to a narrowing of the field. So what does that mean? For example, what is objective-based versus novelty search? It tells you that having a high-paying job make it less likely for you to be rich. Weirdly, right? If you have a high-paying job, that means that all your hours are narrowed down to a very specific task. Let's be realistic, that's what a high-paying job is. That means they have a very specific mindset of being very thorough at what they do to give a reward, like, return on the investment of being so that means that all your time, usually a lot of it, is being spent toward a very, very specific goal. Right, so it's a convergent mindset. You know what that does? That means that you won't have the time or energy or mindset to go look for some crazy shit on the side, like creating the iPhone, that would make you rich. But what makes you rich is that one stuff that no one else found.
Well, I think...
even the lotto, right? It's like that.
If you think about everything that skill you've acquired, that you've worked on, right? Whether it's pool, jiu-jitsu, for me it would be sports, music, whatever.
Me too, thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, I meant to say like team sports. Listen, I play real sports.
I am an athlete.
Not trying to be the best at exercising.
Not that football is better than jiu-jitsu, but...
I
didn't mean CrossFit either.
Hey, I know. But if you do if you look back at those things, you can actually see there's a lot of consistent work, always, right? There's consistent effort, if you will, at learning. However, you notice there are, like you've talked about, these big, huge jumps where your progress is always made. Everything does go in that way.
That S-curve.
And that comes from it always, you end up like refinding that the term like that, like childlike enthusiasm for the thing, and then you fucking go.
Yeah.
And for me, there's times where I would practice with the guitar, and all of a sudden there'd be like some fucking album I would like, and I would spend 5 days underneath the stairs at my parents' house playing. And those times, all of a sudden, I would be astonished, but it's because I wanted to be there. Because
you follow the
I'm just grabbing it and going.
You stall, and then you have that period where everything goes, and then you're going to stall again. That is the S-curve. By the way, the S-curve is done on a linear progression of time. That's the most fascinating thing, is that if you look at what an S-curve is, the both distribution, so X and Y, so which means time versus output, they both linear. They go in a linear fashion, but they still produce an S-curve. Because of the probabilistic model that we follow in the world. So that means you practice number of hours versus the amount of work that you put in a linear way.
The ones that are productive are still going to produce.
No, but that's the thing is so a number of hours plus amount of energy spent on practicing is linear on both sides. Even if you do the exact same way, you'll have periods where you stall, period when it goes really well, period where you stall again. Because that's the way the fucking thing works.
Yeah, and I think those periods, though, of fast growth is when we're finally using something which really connects the software to the process.
Yeah. And this is the problem, is because of active inference where we need to minimize surprise, we look at that fast growth period of I'm doing something right. So we're trying to find a pattern.
And then
in this
is exactly,
and that's where we fuck things up.
And That's a good point. So let's talk about that aspect of it. So with Carl Friston's stuff we've talked about, we don't want surprises.
We try to minimize.
We try to
surprises.
minimize it, which means you're going to have
there
a
will
novel.
Be some.
You will have a novel experience, but then you're going to try to tighten that variable up a little bit.
As much as, but that's the thing is, it's not the linear thing. It's a probabilistic model. You're trying to tighten up the stuff. So what is tightening things means? It means adding constraints, not objective, which make it one thing only. Because then you're dead.
And you know what? I think a lot of people view those as the same function, and that's how so many people fall into the same trap.
But it's not.
Definitely. Yeah. But I think that's where the trap, because I'll find it because it is somewhat. It's not a semantics discussion because they're different, but it is kind of a semantics thing that they are very different.
And yes, exactly. But that's the problem. What we've been told
we don't
that
know the difference.
Exactly, that objective is the way forward, because we look at going back to economics. Let's look at the guy who promises you 5% return for 20 years. What he's talking about is when that curve goes up. He's basing all his argument based on that. Yeah, but we know it's gonna stall at both ends, but we're not going to talk about that because that's not interesting. Yeah, because what they're trying to do is instead let's narrow down on what we think works. The whole fucking thing works. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
So you can't take the middle part and say, let's analyze what we did in the middle part. You get to the middle part because you started at the bottom of the S-curve. That's what gets you to the middle part. So if you take the middle part thinking, if we do that, we're going to stay in the middle, it by definition won't work. And so we look at that going up and we say, let's just do what we're doing there. No, the overall will get you an S-curve. You don't get to cut the parts you don't like and say, let's stick with that. That's what an objective mindset is.
Yeah.
Because the measure became a target.
Exactly.
The S-curve is the entirety and you narrow it down to one part. You can't do that.
Because it's interesting. You think though, not you, but people tend to think.
Not me, exactly.
People tend to think though that all right, things are going poorly in trying to get towards my goal, if you will, even though often it is an objective, which is already a problem.
That makes it less likely for you to reach it.
Let's just say we're on a place where the target is set right generally and we're making progress. Just progress. But if progress slows, very often people start to look at it and go, I need to remove some variables. What am I doing that's wrong? Not what am I not doing that I should be at?
And I can answer what you're doing that is wrong. Is you're looking at the world the wrong way.
Yeah.
You think that curve can keep on going straight, where it can do nothing else, but at some point still.
So that's the thing. Like if things are going well, you're like, all right, I'm just gonna keep this up. Once it planes out, after it's gone well for a while too, the other thing is, okay, do I just need to do more of that now? So do I need to, if I'm training, do I need to
so then you're gonna have to do something else.
Yeah.
Something else. But something else will still involve some stalling at first until you're on a new skill and then you start gaining a new stuff. So there is a way to apply this. How long do we have on this one? Or we do a second one and then I'll talk about the application to training.
Let's do a second one, and then were we going to do elaborate on the 1, 2, 3 with that application?
On the second one, yes, that's what I want to do.
Perfect. Yeah, let's go through and wrap this one up, and then we'll go to the next one.
Okay, awesome. Let's finish this. By the way, we will post this. So this is Wednesday for all of you. This Saturday, 3 days from now, we'll post the second one so that we'll give you that as a special because we are that nice. It's a bonus episode and we actually might do more than one.
Yeah.
Because we have so much shit to put out there. But in AI, that's what you saw. You saw a robot that basically mapped that had knowledge of the world and then kept increasing the knowledge. So by doing that, it kept increasing complexity. So what interests me with this is the way life works. So I talked about the fungus that found a way to, so what they did is in Japan, they have the subway system. They took the map and then they put morsels of food at very specific place that were showing the stations of a particular part of the subway system.
Yeah. So each piece of food represents which would be then essentially in the train station would be a destination.
Yeah, exactly.
If you will, right?
But
a route, a place that needed to be got to some way.
Yes, it's all the stations like that that already exist based on the map of the Tokyo system. They put the fungus in the middle, and basically what it did, it started spreading. So.
And now what that does is that spreads out, gets to the food, and then also has to start transporting the nutrients around to the rest of the fungus.
Right, exactly. So the fungus is
from the location, things.
Yeah.
So it is a transportation. It's interesting because that is actually a transportation
system.
is the fucking the target.
So there's no brain versus extremities in that sense. It's just a fungus, right?
Yeah.
But what was interesting as well is people say, well, it spread randomly. That's not true. The fungus never went backwards. There's a video out there, it lasted 30 seconds, that I seriously suggest you go. It keeps going out. Right, so keep going out means, what is he doing? He's going where he hasn't gone before. That's not random. That's actually very, very much, that's a novelty search. That's opposite of random. If you go to a place where you've been before, that means in order to do that, you have to be able to keep track. So the fungus is keeping track. And he's doing a novelty search until he found the food. And once he's done that, the entire fungus understood what the food was and started to create routes within itself that was being shown. And at the end, the routes that it created are a more efficient way to communicate between those stations that the Tokyo subway system has. A fucking fungus in a few minutes had a system in place that was kind of better than the Japanese subway system that took years and the best computers in the world to design. A fungus did that through novelty search. That tells you how much that objective search was not nearly as good as novelty search. Like the problem too is we have a problem with the term intelligence.
Yes.
Is a fungus intelligence? People will tell you obviously not, because they confuse intelligence and human consciousness. That fungus did better than any of us can do at figure out the routes, or even the computers that we have. Does that make that fungus intelligent? There's the problem with conversation too. Like, we are not looking at the world as a way to learn. We are so arrogant that we think our way, objective way is better, where actually it's far weaker. For example, did I ever tell you about the zombie ant?
Yes.
All right, so I need to get, because it's the most interesting stuff. Google it, the shit is crazy. What is a zombie ant? There's a particular fungus, so it's a parasite, right? A spore, it's a fungus, a mushroom, right? That will basically go onto an ant. It will take control of the entire nervous system entity of the ant and will drive it into a specific behavior. The behavior being is going to drive the ant up on top of the anthill, right? Up a branch or something.
I think they go to like the top of the tree line or something.
Yeah, on top of a tree, but there's actually a specific distance. Because why? And I'm going to explain why that distance. Because once he gets there, it's going to make the ant clamp down with his jaw onto the stuff and basically die. And once he's dead, there's the fungus is going to crawl out of the head, right? Up until it's at a certain distance, and from there, it's going to release the spore that will allow it to infect more ants.
Oh.
If that's not the crazy shit, how the fuck does a fungus know how high to go? First of all, how does he know how to go high?
How does he know what high is?
Exactly. No. It's a fungus.
Yeah.
And yet he knows how to go up.
And what's funny is that function, right? That thing that happens. It didn't happen because that fungus had eyeballs and was looking up there going,
it's not an objective-based search.
Spot.
Yes,
so
exactly.
So let's assume that is right now is the most effective way for that fungus to reproduce and spread, right? Yeah. He couldn't have sat. I say he. The fungus isn't sitting there like planning it out. Like, all right, what are my other options here?
Let me calculate the distance from here to the top and see which. It's not an objective-based search.
Yeah. What it did was literally everything.
Right, but what does a fungus have? He has. He acts like so. He has a neural network. Is it in his own way? He has all those filaments and stuff like that. And then he behaves like a neural network. What's a neural network? It's alpha zero. Stockfish used to be the goal, objective-based, search-based, memorization power and everything. And then we went from there to alpha zero. Alpha zero is a neural network type of search. So back to novelty search. How did alpha zero learn to play chess better than anywhere else, including Stockfish? By playing itself, by trying something new every time. It is the way forward. It is the way to learn. We are finally starting to understand how the world works, and in our arrogance we fucked it up completely, but this is the way actually the world works. There's a fungus that replaces the entire gut biome of an insect to the point where the insect just keeps on going. It's not true that it makes no difference to the insect, but it replaces the entire gut biome and acts in its place, digesting the food, doing exactly the same thing as the entire gut biome. It acts as a parasite, except to the insect doesn't seem to make a difference. I would like to know if the insect behaves better in that sense.
Yeah, that's kind of.
That'd be very interesting.
I kind of wish that was like a Pixar, like a Bug's Life movie.
Right.
Where it's like,
no.
I kind of want to know what that bug's got to say before
There's a
and
specific
after.
mushroom.
You know what I mean?
Right. A specific mushroom, when eaten by primates, that acts as a better neurotransmitter than serotonin.
I think I've had a few of those.
Yeah, there you go. Well, actually, it's the dude was on Joe Rogan. His name is Tom Stanlett, something like that.
I don't think I heard that one.
Oh, you have to. It's the most because the guy is a fungus specialist, and he talks about stuff that are fascinating. Like it seems like the largest organism in the world is a fungus. It's the size of 700 football fields.
One single organism.
One single mushroom. What it does is it breaks down trees at the roots and everything, and it's up to 30% water. It breaks them down to 30% water, right, of the mass. So what Joe Rogan was asking, but then what is the water for? It's like most likely is to create a swamp. Why? Because the swamp brings beavers, animals. It creates life.
The
So
water
it
and
seems,
decomposition and
right.
yeah.
It seems that the fungus is the base of the ecosystem. So it basically going there, breaking down the trees that are already there to create a new ecosystem for life to grow. So if you look about 600 million years ago, at the same time animals started to develop a nervous system, the flatworm, there was like 8 feet tall fungi, plural. Fungi, 8 feet tall, taller than trees at the time. I have no clue what they were for, but they start to understand it was actually a fungus. And that's at the same time where plants and trees started to, and then as the plants and the trees started to take over, the fungus started to grow down and then be more toward the ground. So he laid the ground for the next evolution
of that space,
of the ecosystem, not even of everything. It seems that the fungus is
the end
base
and
of
the beginning.
The end, well, exactly. And the beginning of all ecosystems. And that's one that right now is better than the computers we have to design the Tokyo system. Not even that fungus, because that was just a fungus. A fungus is a computer. Because that we can test.
And
it's a neural network based computer.
And I always love what we've talked about in the past. We will not get into this deep at this point, but like is how like we talk about information being
Back
passed
to
on.
it, exactly.
It's like, but I like that with if you think about how this.
Back to it.
You have this thing is completely decomposing all these trees and all of this wildlife, all of this life, all that information, not destroyed.
Nope.
It's completely condensed down, transformed into this state that is now the substrate for all this new stuff to build upon.
Right, exactly.
And now you have all the information, hundreds of years
Circle of life, right? Kind of thing, yeah.
That now is.
And guess what he's going to get?
They're going to build on it the next time.
And guess what he's going to get out of that? More complexity.
Which is what it needs. It needs new.
So it needs more complexity. So, but the fungus is a neural network-based computer. You see where I go with there every time? And it's a novelty search network system, not an objective one.
Yeah.
That's what nature is. And guys, we are part of nature. Like the idea that objective base is incorrect.
Yeah.
And so in the next one, we're going to make it into a practical application. I want to explain how it works for training. So people, because I know right now they're fucking get lost.
It'll be good. We'll pull you back from the weeds in a couple of days.
So what I'll do is I'll use myself as an example to how I'm going to find my training to fit this idea.
Perfect. So a couple days, we'll get back to you to wrap this one up. StrongFit.com, StrongFitEquipment.com, or .eu, Julian'sCorner.com. We have StrongFit1 on Instagram, Tyler F. and Stone, UK32, Rare Barracuda. Whew. What else do we got? I gotta have something else
Julian's
out there.
Corner, do you say it?
Yeah, we got that one. I've kept that.
And whatever we didn't say on this time.
We do. I don't know if you've been listening for the last 50 episodes, but we do seminars and stuff too.
Here and there.
We're really trying,
Aren't we at 52 by now?
This is probably 51 or 52.
Oh,
but my
1 year, baby.
But my numbers are weird because there's been bonus, so I don't really know.
Right, this won't be 52, but anyway, we are we're getting close to 1 year.
I'll count 52 even if it comes out before a year.
Yeah.
Because technically that's just my year. That's 52 episodes. That's a year. That's a podcast.
That's a year, exactly.
So, all right, well, we'll see you in a couple days.